about what I will going to talk about. So I'm a graphic designer from the Netherlands. I studied graphic design and then started my own office as a graphic designer, and also went a period to Australia, actually just after I graduated. And when I went to Australia, I thought I'm going to learn a lot about Australia, but what I learned way more about was actually about the Netherlands. Because before I thought the Netherlands wouldn't mean anything to me, and I'm an international citizen, and I relate to international issues, and I'm globalized. But then in Australia, I was very much confronted with the fact that I was very, very Dutch. Because all my habits were different, all my expectations were different, and I only brought a small thing to a country house while all the others brought breads and wines and other, and then I felt very Dutch. And yeah, that I found very remarkable, and it changed my perception also, or it influenced my perception of what nationality is and what it could mean. And then back in the Netherlands, I started my own office, and I worked as a graphic designer, and I got very nice assignments, and it were the kind of assignments that I was dreaming about while I was a student at art school. But still, I found myself sitting behind the desk being bored. I thought, this is not really, I can make a better content of the book, or I want to be involved in creating the content, or I didn't feel satisfied by just giving the form to the content of someone else. And so I started to invest in initiating my own projects. So on this way, or with this kind of frustration, I ended up making first subjective atlas of the European Union from a historical point of view. And I will show some of this work. So in my presentation now, I will show some of the subjective atlases that I made, and will tell a bit more about the facts, or the arguments, the influences, why I find it important to make them, and why I did not get bored by making subjective atlases. I start with the word subjective, because do you know Roland Barthes, the French philosopher? Yeah. Okay, well, he was in the Second World War. He was ill. He was in a sanatorium, and so for a few years. And in these years, he had a lot of time besides being ill, and so he read the French history. And actually, in France, there's Millet, and he's a historical writer, and he died. I don't know exactly when, but I think in the beginning of the 20th century. So he wrote the French history probably in the 19th century. And this is actually the standard work in France where people refer to if they talk about French history. So this book, what this book makes as the main happenings, is considered in France as the main happenings. So Roland Barthes was reading this French history and thought, I'm going to write a biography of Millet, and Millet was the writer of the history, and not by researching the life of Millet, but by reading the French history. So he was reading and rereading and trying to figure out, like, who is this person who wrote this history? What kind of personality must he have had in order to write French history in this way? And then one of the things that he discovered was that he found Millet very sexually very frustrated. So that has influenced many of his choices, and he was very male-dominated in his thought and his fact, in who's important and who's not important. So then he wrote a biography of Millet, and actually he says, well, actually you should first read a biography of Millet, and then you should read the French history by Millet, because then you know who is talking, and then you can filter it, or you can realize what it is. And this story that really struck me. I thought, wow, this is actually, then everything is subjective, because everything is based on everything that, like books and also atlases, they're based on human choices, and in that sense they are subjective. But if you know who is speaking, who is talking, then you can combine these two things and make your own, filter your own facts out of it. So therefore I decided to make a subjective atlas in order to know who is speaking, like to introduce, these are the kind of people that say this. So then you have two facts, and so that's actually more information. And that way, I think the subjective atlas is even more objective than atlas. Okay, that's the introduction for my presentation about books. Onderstemt is de... Bedenk die hier van zien. So I start with the European Union and I do a little test. What image comes in your mind when you hear the word EU? Star, flag, something else? Shape of Europe, something else? Well, not much. And I think that's also the problem of the EU. Like, well, this is what you answered, like the flag, which is often there, or, of course, politicians are the images that we see when the media are writing about the EU, or worse, but more real, very big meeting rooms, which don't work visually very well, and very much graphs. So is this democracy? Is democracy something that you can visualize in graphs, in facts and numbers? Or is a political entity, isn't that a culture and something which is way more based on human experiences? And if this is the image that the EU expresses itself with, then isn't it very logic that no one feels very attached to the EU? Isn't it also very much a visual problem? So in now 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 new countries became a member of the EU, and Estonia was one of the countries, and it was 2003. And I gave a workshop in Tallinn on the art school, and I decided to make a subjective atlas of the EU, seen from an Estonian point of view. And I asked the students in Estonia, well, could you map EU? And their reaction was something like, there I gave a line from the Netherlands. And then I said, but it's not about how the EU wants to represent itself, but it's what is your relation with the EU? And then actually we got very interesting stories. For instance, one boy said, well, since the borders are open, I've been hitchhiking through EU, and I went to this country, and that city, and then the girl says, hey, but my watch is from Switzerland, and my trousers are from Germany, and so I'm actually wearing the EU. And so all these stories came up, and we had a completely different way of thinking about the EU, and I think that's important in order to be interested in it, because it's a big political entity creating many laws that form our future. So if we're even not interested in it, then we won't have any power or any influence to change it. So this book is a strategy or a way to make it closer, make a concept like this, an abstract concept, closer to our experience. And I'll show you a few of the pages that have been made for this book. This is the cover, and this is like this is an image that I made. It's like a Rorschach test. Yeah. Yeah. Where is it? Yeah. So this is all the EU countries at that time, and north is for all the countries. North is on top. So I didn't move north. Put them in this way. Well, first Estonia was part of the east, now it's part of the west, and this student prefers Estonia. All the how do you say? What this student was seeing in the silhouettes of the countries. So imagine in the EU countries, is Hungary there?
Yeah. That's the chicken, right?
No, it's not. Oh, it's on the next page, but it's not in my presentation. Okay, you owe that. All the organizations that Estonia is a member of, and the EU is just one of them. Since they are part of the EU, many new laws came, which isn't making life richer. And this is nice because this is the son of a car mechanic. And he said, well, since our borders are totally open, we have more international cars in our harbor. So he photographed all the international number plates in the harbor. And he also photographed the country stickers. And then he did a little poetic test. What words could he make with all the country stickers of the EU? Flags of the EU countries sorted by color. So well, you get the trick, right? And then, but if you do all the red parts together, all the blue parts together, all the green parts together, you get the left page. Then different countries use different shades of grey, different shades of blue. So if you would say, well, all red is red, all blue is blue, one side blue, then you get the right graph, and then you can see that the Dutch flag is the most average flag of the EU. So that's the subjective atlas of the EU. So now we do another test. If you hear the word the Netherlands, what do you think of? Wait, it's too much. Tulips? Jeans? No? Cheese?
Bicycle.
And what else?
Ontbijt.
Ontbijtkoek? What else? Marijuana? What else?
Windmill.
Windmills? Folder? Okay, well, you notice immediately that there's much more answers than when I asked you to imagine the EU. So the Netherlands doesn't have a problem in visualizing itself, but they do have a problem, according to me as an experienced citizen, in trying to stick to the old images of the Netherlands. So the old images of the Netherlands are so strong, like the windmills, or a society that might have been true in the 50s, that people in the Netherlands want to go back to this image instead of having an image of our current society, maybe of our future society. So, and this is the average image that people think of by the Netherlands: the windmills, the tulips, the water, the architecture, polders, soccer, or something else, but I feel a bit ashamed of. Of course, the marijuana. But then it's 2002 and 2004, and then one right-wing politician got killed, Pim Fortuyn, and then 2 years later, Theo van Gogh, a filmmaker and media figure, was also killed. So that changed completely the public discourse and the climate in the Netherlands. And people were discussing and saying, hey, we thought we were such a tolerant country, and how did this happen in our country? And we have to close our borders. And well, it really changed the idea of the Netherlands within the Netherlands. And these two murders, I mean, that's terrible. But what happens is that these images are shown so much in the media that almost people think that they have witnessed it. So of course it's terrible, but the impact has been enlarged and enlarged and enlarged and enlarged in the media. And then people think, well, the whole society is not safe anymore. People can just get killed in the street, and well, it really changed it. And I was very shocked by what caused it. And maybe also, I don't know if you follow the Dutch news this week, but we are having a new cabinet with an extreme right-wing party including in it. And I think also this is also part of what's the discussions that started after these murders. And it created space, or maybe also the media created space for populistic voices very much. And I think we have to give a counter image or an alternative image. So that motivated to make a subjective atlas of the Netherlands. And it was made in 2004 and published in 2009. And at that time I was teaching at the Design Academy in Eindhoven. And for this atlas, it's the same concept as the EU atlas, but what I found especially in this moment in time in the Netherlands very important, that all data, all stories in the atlas came out of human experience, personal experiences. So it's not data from the media, it's not things that you can, not common knowledge, but it's about what do you experience yourself and what do you see yourself, because often you don't know anymore what the media is showing, what you have been seeing, because if you think, well, it's really unsafe on the street, but if you then think, like, did you experience something yourself, or is it the media influencing your feeling of security? So here I wanted to show other images of the Netherlands, more real images, like what is it right now? And that was 2005. So here's the cover. And also I have this book, and it's somewhere in the audience. Yeah, there it is. So this is the Netherlands by the Dutch. Oh, there's a sentence underneath it. It has been dropped out now.
Oh.
Well, maybe I can read it.
We set up a project with the right screen
Okay. No, I'll read it. So it's a Dutch by the Dutch, and what you can see immediately is that everyone is drawing the Netherlands on their own way. And it's funny because they point where they are living, and often where they are living, it's a little bit more detailed, or a little bit bigger than the rest. And so in one image you see, well, everyone has a different image of the Netherlands. Dutch memories, because there's a Dutch poem called Denken aan Holland, thinking of the Netherlands, and she filled in the Netherlands with her own memories to these places. Give us today our daily bread. Doesn't need explanation. Kenmerk, signs. So these students ask people like, what brand are you using for savings? What brand are you using for transport? What brand are you using for eating? So and then they made a pattern of all the brands that the person was using, and they asked 4 people. Passport. So it's a passport, but it's from people with a not obviously non-Dutch background, or also a non-Dutch background, and in the little texts it explains how they are being treated, or how they feel that when they go to a shop there's always someone watching them, or when they or how people approach them. Wachtwijzer, waiting times. So this is from a student who counted during the week where he had to wait. It was before the traffic light, before a copy machine, on the telephone, on school, on the supermarket. So it's all very objective data, because he has really been waiting there, but of course it's from a subjective point of view, or a personal point of view. And then the one that's winning is the school. Superland, where are all the main supermarkets, or the chains of supermarkets, where are they located? Dutch arm trade, where do we export our arms, weapons to, which is pretty shocking, because we're a big exporter in knowledge in armies, and at the same time we're trying to build peace. This was from an Israeli student, and actually I didn't realize that before, but the service of Israel is almost as big as the service of the Netherlands, and then we both have the sea on our west coast. And so he put the Netherlands on the place of Israel, and then have the West Bank and Gaza noticed in it. And it's nice because it immediately, you can relate in a different way to the subject. This I find very interesting because it's called the most popular Germans in Dutch street names. So this is a German student who was a guest student in the Netherlands, and he counted which Germans were most popular by the amount of streets that were named after them. So in the Netherlands there's 142 streets named after Mozart. And 142 to Beethoven and 141 to Mozart. So Beethoven was just a little bit more popular. And then 116 to Bach and 26 to Einstein, and then it continues. And alternative flag to the Netherlands. So now you saw that the EU lacks imagination. The Netherlands has an overloaded imagination, or maybe a bit old-fashioned. And a country which really has a serious problem with its representation in the media is Palestine. So I'll do another check. What do you think when you hear Palestine? What comes up in your mind? Hurting people? War? What else? Misunderstanding. What else? Political conflict. More?
Black and white checked scarf.
Black and white scarves. Okay, so all these images that you describe now are not very positive images, right? So it's not, it's quite a negative image that Palestine leaves in your mind, which I think is very close to a Google image of Palestine. And it's funny because Palestine is often also showed with the flag, but if you compare this, the way the Palestinian flags are visualized and the way the European Union flags are visualized, the one is And the European Union is an image of power, and this is an image of stride, striding for rights. So it's a really different way of showing the flag. And then, well, the wall is an image that comes often with Palestine. Crying women and children, fighting men, blood, armies, very often stone-throwing guys. And what I didn't notice before is, but you should see it, like the age of the boys. It's not old men, it's only young boys throwing stones. And it was interesting because I've been in Ramallah, and then I met a lot of boys there, and men, and I asked them, like, did you also throw stones? And many of them said, yes, because it's one of the only things that you can do to show that you don't agree with the circumstances. And I said, but weren't you scared to throw stones? And they said, yes, we were scared because the worst thing what could happen is that on a moment you're throwing stones, and on a certain moment you feel a hand on your shoulders, you look back in the eyes of your father. And you have to stay home for 2 weeks. And I thought, shit, yeah, I didn't think of that. But somehow, in the media, this image is a really strong image. So strong that here's the Dutch newspaper, the NRC Handelsblad, which I think is one of the most, is for the existing newspapers the best newspaper in the Netherlands and the most nuanced. And then it was in October, last October, and then the United Nations Council accepted a report that investigated the war in Gaza. And it was accepted by a judge in South Africa, and he had a Jewish background. And so it's about Gaza, the United Nations, about Israel disagreeing with the investigation. And what do they, and this is front page news in the Netherlands, and the image that they put next to it is this boy, and it says, Palestinian demonstrants yesterday in Ramallah on the West Bank throwing stones to Israeli soldiers. So this has nothing to do with the news, nothing. And that's the image they put next to it. So somehow these images, they work so strong that they, this is influencing our idea of Palestine. And I think also in this way, by these negative images, by these fighting images, they become a they, and they never become a we. Because we is only people you can identify with, and someone who's aggressive or throwing stones or in the army is someone else. And when they are a they, we don't care so much what they do or how they live or what the situation is. And I think that moment is very dangerous when in society you have a we and a they. So well, these kind of things were a strong motivation to make a subjective atlas of Palestine. And that was made in 2007. And I'll show you a few pages of this book. So this is the cover. And also it's here if you want to see it, you can pass it on to you. So the first question that I asked to the Palestinian artists and designers, I said, could you draw Palestine? And it's interesting because immediately that is a difficult question. Like, how do you draw Palestine? And so on the left, it's a bit like the way it's on our map. And there's the borders of Israel and the borders of West Bank and Gaza, but actually those are the borders that were set in '68. Those are not the borders that exist now, only on maps, but not in reality, because the reality now is more like this, that some parts of the West Bank are Palestinian owned and the rest not. And there are more drawings. And so in these simple drawings, you immediately feel that there's something serious going on. These are 12 ways to eat chickpeas. Chickpeas are one of their main ingredients for their dishes. Color correction. So this is a refugee camp near Ramallah, and Yassam Khalil, who made a stage, colored them in Photoshop. In the absence of a currency, Palestine doesn't have a currency. So the official currency is Israeli shekels. That depends on the kind of job that you have and which money you are paid. So for instance, she's a correspondent and she gets paid in US dollars and euros. She's a supervising copy editor of the Palestinian Times and she's paid in US dollars. He's a police officer in the Israeli shekels, and he's a university professor, and he's paid in Jordanian dinars. So that makes it, you're always dependent on the economy of other countries, not on your own economy. And that makes it very weak. And also you also have to change your money to Israeli shekels in order to take a taxi or to go shopping. And well, as you know, with changing money you also lose money. But what if Palestine had a currency, how could it look? Palestinian dress, they have a very rich history in embroidery. They're very beautiful ones. Another Palestinian dress. The flowering heritage of Palestine. Did you ever wonder what kind of flowers they were growing? Beautiful Palestine. It has a beautiful scenery. Fantastic landscape. Architectural possibilities of the wall. This is an architect in Jerusalem, and he made it possible. Well, since the wall is there, what can we do? We can make a hole in it. We can do film screenings, or we can climb on it. Extremities of Ramallah. Ramallah is a small village, and you can't really get out of it. There's a wall, there's a jail, or there's a settlement where you're not welcome. And so this is it for Ramallah citizens. Art school drawings after 4 years in Nablus. So this was just an art school exercise, like make drawings black and white. And this guy found it interesting how he made these drawings very intuitive, thinking, hey, what will have a high contrast? And then while he was invited to participate in Atlas, he said, hey, but actually, if I look back at my art school work, isn't it strange, the subjects that I chose, but these are the subjects that, I mean, living there influenced my mind. My father's Palestinian nationality, from Baha Bukhari. This is the Palestinian passport of a man born in 1913. He has a British passport. Palestine was a British colony. He got protected by the British government because he was carrying a British passport. He could travel, go to the World Expo in Paris, to architectural conferences, could travel around, have a good life. And so, yeah, 2 generations further in life is something terribly different. The documents that I needed to travel outside Palestine, this boy flew to Frankfurt in Germany, and for the atlas he showed what he needed to have in order to get there. So there's a ticket to go through the checkpoint, to cross a bridge, to cross another bridge, to go in a bus, to leave his luggage, to enter the airport, and because Palestine doesn't have an airport anymore, and so he has to go to Jordania to get the flight. Palestinian refugees in the world, where do they live? A letter from prisoner Mohammed, and it's nice to read. I have time, huh? Yeah. Okay, because this is, I mean, I will read it because I found it, especially when I was in Palestine, it really touched me, and it changed so much the idea of prisoners. So, my dear parents, peace be upon you. I am well. Do not worry about me. I have lost a little weight in prison, but I am in good health. The prison is another world. I miss you a lot, and I know how hard it is to hold strike against visitations. We are working towards better conditions for visitations. We will make great effort to be allowed to touch your fingers through the windows. Mom, I want to tell you something, but please not say that your son has gone crazy. 7 days ago, I befriended 2 cockroaches. I play with them and spend my time in between reading or watching them. And I have kept them in a small box. And every day I feed them a pinch of sugar. One is black and the other one is brown. I might wet them when they grow up. I let them out of the box a few hours every day. My greetings to all, Mom, your son Mohammed. And this is another letter. And this is a contribution from Khaled Hourani. And he said, when Palestine is in the news, it's always with something bad. Always when there is a fight or a conflict. But he says 95% of the time, and 99% of the time, there's no news from Palestine. We're just having a life, trying to prepare our meals, bringing our kids to school. So he made a postcard series called No News from Palestine. And these are new flags of Palestine. And here you can see it's called 10%. So it's fading out. And here are all the contributors, all smiling Palestinians. And with when they have a website or their email address, so you can always easily get in contact with them, so they can become a we instead of a they. So that's the subjective atlas of Palestine. So then I had a series, I had 3, and institutions being more interested, and so I got the invitation to make a subjective atlas of Serbia. So, last test. What do you think of when you hear Serbia? War? What else?
Water polo team.
Water?
Water polo.
Water polo?
Polo sport. Sport.
Oh, water sport. Polo. Okay, yeah. That's interesting image.
Because you always win against Hungary.
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. So even a country that is next to Serbia doesn't have many images of Serbia, right? I can conclude that. Well, in the Netherlands it's not much better. Serbia is I think Serbia is a beautiful blank spot. Or we have one history with Serbia, and we have the International Court of Justice. So we had Karadzic, and he's now in The Hague being accused, and Milosevic, who died in The Hague in prison. And of course we feel very ashamed of the Dutch bet, where we totally failed defending the people in Srebrenica. And also, well, this is the relationship that the Dutch have with Serbia, but then later on I realized that also the name of Serbia has been changed quite often, so it's difficult even to live in Serbia to relate to what is Serbia. So that made it very relevant, I think, to make a subjective atlas of Serbia in order to figure out like what is Serbia, what is Serbia today, what does it mean, what kind of human images can we make, what kind of alternatives can we create, and what is it that Serbian people find. So again, I'll show you some pages of the Serbian atlas. Same time, same principle. I asked the artists and designers to draw Serbia, and very quickly you feel some conflict or difficulties. More maps of Serbia. IQ test. Where does Serbia fit? And the conclusion of the test is it doesn't fit anywhere. The Prussian banknote of '93, when they had a hyperinflation. In God we trust, all the banks that are rising like mushrooms in Serbia. Mixed memories, and this is a girl from, I don't know exactly, I think she's born in beginning of the 80s, and so she was like 16, 17 years old when there was war, and from each she collects all these papers and things, and from each year she's showing the most precious one, and it's interesting because one time it's a flyer for a demonstration, another time it's a flyer for a Prodigy concert, or a pirate tape of music. So it's nice how these things become equal in memories. My room is our room. What I was a bit shocked by is the fact that all the contributors, they were I think between 20 and 30 years old, and 90% of them were still living with their parents, because they didn't have any money in order to rent something themselves, and they wanted to live by themselves, but it was impossible. So this guy photographed his sleeping room, and then when he photographed it, I noticed that he's saying that this is my bed and this is my brother's bed. And so he made actually a map from his room. What is for instance, here, number 21, is that his father put some plastic around the electricity switch in order to keep it clean. And so there's all these little details, but it tells such a rich story. Saint Slava, family feast, all the dishes they eat. Serbian landscape by Chileans. Gypsy market in Zemun, every Sunday any object. My little piece of Serbia. This girl said, well, Serbian people are often, even Serbian people themselves, they look down at Serbian people. And she said, but in reality, I have such a special friends and they are Serbian. So she portrayed them and said, here, Jelena Kolic, studying textiles and design, big MIA fan, saves my life daily. And I think she speaks 3 languages and plays the piano fantastic. And so she portrayed a couple of her friends saying why they are so special for her. And this guy photographed women like his grandmother, and how now they used to look like this, but then in black textiles, and now with very mixed textiles. But he's not very optimistic about it. Alternative flags of Serbia, and left that she does not Serbia's mistakes, and this is how she feels being a citizen in Serbia. More alternative flags. And backside. Well, as you can imagine, making these books takes a lot of work and a lot of energy, and a lot of traveling, and then I have like these nice ambitions to change the media image. But what is actually really the effect of books like this? Isn't it a bit of a waste of time to put so much effort in books with such a small edition? Yeah, what is the impact? Because if you look at the edition of the books, like the others of the EU was 500, from the Netherlands was 2,000, from Palestine 3,000, from Serbia 2,000. And if you look, for instance, the amount of people that watch the news on a regular day in the Netherlands, which is about 1 million people, then where am I with 2,000 books? That's nothing. So I've been questioning that myself. Like why is it worth to do this? And what is the effect of a book like this? Where is the effect? Where is the success? Is the book the success, or is the workshop the success, or is the discourse that it creates, or is it where is the impact of the book, and what is it doing? So then I thought, actually, isn't it more? So I think that it's not the book that's the success, but it's the reproduction of the book and the reproduction in the media. So I think that the books are a tool in order to stimulate a visual discussion about nationality, about identity, about countries and who we are now. And so I think that's where the value is. So the meaning of these projects are created afterwards and not during. I'll illustrate what I mean. When the Subjective Atlas of the Netherlands came out, then the local newspaper wrote an article about it, shows an image. The bookshop read this article and said, hey, let's put it in our window. So they printed the alternative flags on textile and put it in their window of the bookshop. Then the Revue, and the Dutch magazine, noticed it, wrote about it. Another Dutch magazine wrote about it, showed images. The Esquire magazine said, well, the atlas is a very nice Christmas present. This is someone writing an article about, an essay, research about structures in Amsterdam. And he called me, he said, well, this image with all the sandwiches is actually really illustrating exactly what I mean. Could I use this image for that? I said, yes, of course. The Rails magazine, they wrote about it and put some flags as illustrations. A Dutch design book. Another Dutch design book, or a Spanish design book. Another design book showed images of it. Then there were 2 universities, one in Eindhoven, one in Amsterdam, and they said, well, we would like to make an exhibition about Dutch identity, and could we use the images of that book for our exhibition. I said, yeah, good idea. So I gave them high resolution PDFs and they organized the exhibition. Then there was a night about the evening of the national identity, and they said, well, we've seen this flag with the teeth, could we use it as our main image for this evening about national identity? Then there was a souvenir shop, and they called me like, well, these flags, we are creating new souvenirs for the Netherlands, and the flags that your students made are very nice. Could I make a postcard series of those flags? Yeah. I say yes. And then, so with the subjective atlas of the Netherlands, and actually also this book, but it's another book, but it's also about Dutch identity, you can see. And images from that are also taken. And what happened was that, although it was my initiative to make these books, there was actually a client, many clients, but they appeared afterwards. So the question to the images came afterwards and not on beforehand. So actually they were kind of a niche. A niche in the sense that there was actually a need for these images. Well, society won't knock on your door asking like, hey, can you make this for me? You have to come to society or go to society. So I thought, hey, if that's the case, if this book, if this way of working creates images that there is a need for, but only afterwards, then can't I use that as a strategy, as a design strategy? So I decided to publish the books without copyright in order to give it, to make sure that it's going to be reused and reused. So that happened with the subjective atlas of Palestine. I mean, officially it has copyright, but I wrote a sentence underneath that you can freely use the images. And I made a website where you can download a PDF of the book, so it can really be spread around, and you can take images of the PDF. And so this happened. This is a Dutch design magazine showing images of the Palestinian atlas. The Dutch newspaper, the one that I like very much, and then they wrote an article about the book when it came out. I was invited for some radio shows to talk about Palestine and my experiences there. Eichhuizen Interieurs, it's an interior magazine, and they are announcing, they put the atlas on their book list. A Lebanese magazine for men announcing it and showing this image from all the documents that I needed to travel outside Palestine. Another Lebanese magazine for women. Australian lifestyle magazine, making a beautiful image out of it. Adbusters, Canadian magazine, and they used images of the atlas to illustrate their article. And this is the architectural possibilities of the book. Another issue of Adbusters showing the letter of the prisoner, though I don't understand why they put these two images next to each other on Instagram. And I never got an answer. Sam, a Dutch magazine about the Middle East. And then this is really what I love to happen, because they called me and said, we're making this magazine, and could we use the passport of the father of Wahab Bukhara as our image for the cover. So the issue is not about the atlas at all, but they found this image in my book and thought, hey, this is interesting to use it as an image for our story about 60 years of Nakba. Deventer, village in the Netherlands, organizing an exhibition about Palestine, and they asked me, could we use the images of the atlas for our exhibition, which happened. This is the flyer. Then a university in North Carolina in the USA, they organized an exhibition about Palestine and saw the atlas online, and then they asked could we print the atlas in our exhibition, and they did. And they designed this poster themselves to announce the exhibition, and then so these are all flags from the atlas, and this is their own logo of the Palestinian flag. It was awarded as one of the best designed books, and then exhibited in the Museum of Modern Art in the Netherlands. This is an exhibition in Gaza. And also, so with Serbia, I did the same strategy, also a website where you can download the whole book. After the workshop in Serbia, we had an exhibition where all the work was exhibited. And then we announced it in the Netherlands, we were able to bring some of the contributors. And for instance, this is the guy with his broom, and then he played Serbian music on his guitar with his broom on the background. Architecture magazine showing the work. Chinese design magazine. very nice. The participants of the Palestinian Atlas, they, although first I made a book for the Western media, because I think the Western media needs an alternative image, and then they said, but actually the book is very important for us, because it shows what binds us, so we should make an Arabian one, an Arab one. So, but funny, I decided to make an English one, and then they decided to make a bilingual one, so I gave them the whole InDesign file, and they changed the layout, made everything bilingual, and printed it again in Ramallah. And so here you can see that some of the layout has changed. And the interesting thing is that also President Abbas, the president of Palestine, saw the book, found it very interesting, and he bought many of them, and he's using it as a relational gift. So that's very interesting, that what can happen with these books. So my presentation was actually not about the atlases, but is showing how you can use design as visual strategies in order to create more democratic space, in the sense of showing alternative voices, alternative images, other ways of thinking, other ways of visualizing things. But also it was not only about that, it's actually an introduction to the subjective others of Hungary. But that I will tell more about that in 2 months. So in the end of November and the beginning of December, I will come here to organize a workshop, and I want to ask you, Hungarian citizens, to map Hungary according to your own personal point of view. And that will be held here at Kibu. And you're all invited to participate. We have a maximum of 30 or 40 participants, so at a certain moment we have to select, or we have to see how. And then we're trying to build another image of Hungary. And just before we had a talk, and it was interesting. I said how I see my work as ways in creating democratic space, in a way of giving space to minorities, and how which is democratic space is public space, public discourse about where do we find the unknown, where do we find the alternative, and that the concept of democratic space and public space is something else in Hungary than in the Netherlands, and with different histories and socialism. And so I thought that's very interesting how those two, how that relate, or how also maybe a book relates to these kind of concepts, these kind of thoughts. So the subjective others of Hungary is a big question, and it will stay a question, I think, because culture is a question, culture is a dialogue, identity is a dialogue, and what we should do is keeping up the dialogue and not giving answers, but re-asking questions and keep on asking questions. So that will be so this is the introduction to the subjective others of Hungary. Thank you.
Thank you, Annelys. Are there any questions? Posing a question? No, a question mark here. So please check our website. You can find the details about the call, and yeah, we invite you to have some snacks and behind. And yeah, please come and we can chat afterwards. So, thanks for coming. Any more questions?
Who is interested in participating? Okay, well, you can check the website of Kibu to know all the regulations. Maybe we could also talk about it now, or see how we can do it, and maybe I can give you tricks in order to be selected.